Hi, everybody. I hope you all are doing well. I hope you're having an awesome Friday and maybe getting a little bit of sunshine in between the raindrops. It's been rainy and sunny and rainy and sunny today. But that, like we've said before, is really, really good for our plants and flowers and trees. All of those living things out there need that water to grow just like we do, right? And today we're going to talk a little bit more about trees. I've had trees on my mind a lot lately. And we talked a little bit about them earlier in the week. But my family and I have been discussing some really interesting things about trees. Such as, did you all know that when a tree gets sick, sometimes its neighboring trees will do things to take care of it? Just like how when one of our loved ones gets sick, we do some extra things to try to help take care of them until they get well. And also, it's kind of sad, but it's true, trees can get a kind of cancer. They can get tree cancers, and they can die from that, just like sometimes how people do. That's pretty unique and interesting, isn't it? And I also have several other fun facts that I've found that I wanted to share with you all, and I bet you that I learned something new when I researched some of this stuff, and I bet you everybody out there might learn something new about trees today. So we know that trees are more than just part of our natural landscape. We talked about how they provide shelter, not just for people, but for many, many living things, many creatures. And they provide food, not just for people, but for wildlife. They also absorb carbon dioxide and produce breathable air. We have to have trees to breathe. They make our oxygen for us. That's how we live. We have to have oxygen to breathe, to live and survive. And one of the best things about trees, besides all of their survival facts, is that they just add beauty to the world. They just make it a more beautiful place, don't they? So here's a few fun facts about trees. Trees are the longest living organisms on Earth. And they actually never die of just old age. There is a database called the Old List of ancient trees that officially tracks different old trees. It lists their species and their location. And now there is a certain tree in California's White Mountains, the Methuselah Tree, that they have tracked to believe it to be over 4,800 years old. That's really old, isn't it? I have a picture of one of these trees here, of this tree. It's not real good color quality, but you can see there. Isn't that an interesting looking tree? It just kind of looks ancient, doesn't it? Isn't that cool? So also, we know this, right? That just like humans, trees need water to survive. That's why even when we're kind of sick of the rain, we remember it's very good for our trees and plants and crops and living, all those things they're trying to grow. And they drink a lot of water, way more than we do. In a single day, a large tree can consume 100 gallons of water out of the ground. And then it discharges it into the air as it becomes oxygen and water vapor. How cool. And we've got to keep in mind that, these conditions will vary depending on the size of the tree, the species of the tree, the humidity, the temperature, sun exposure, where they are. But I wouldn't be surprised to know that some of our larger trees here in the Great Smoky Mountains, with as much rain as we get through the year, probably consume quite a bit of water themselves. Just imagine what those great redwood trees out in California might drink. They drink a lot of water, I bet. Strategically planting trees and shrubs can save you up to 25% on your energy bills. So let's think about that, because not only do they provide shade in the summer, so it's going to help our house to be cooler, so our air conditioner or whatever cooling system we have doesn't have to work so hard. It's going to keep it cooler. But it's also going to provide a wind break in the winter to keep the wind from hitting us so hard in the cold months too. Is that cool? Trees can save us money. All right, here's another fun fact for you. Moon trees were grown from seeds taken to the moon in early 1971. After orbiting the Earth with the Apollo 14 mission, these tree seeds returned to Earth and were germinated by the Forest Service. Is that cool? So we had our Forest Service and our astronauts working together. Isn't that neat? And then after they're being planted with their earthbound counterparts, these seedlings showed no difference after 20 years of growth. So we learned something cool, didn't we? Those seeds could travel to the moon and orbit the Earth in a spaceship, and then they came back and they still grew just like our normal seeds did. That's interesting, huh? Okay, here is another interesting one. This one I found to be really cool. Trees are able to communicate and defend themselves against attacking insects. Now, we know trees don't talk like we do, but can you just imagine how cool that is that they can communicate in some kind of way? Scientists have found that trees can flood their leaves with chemicals called phenolics, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, when the insects begin their raid. So they can also signal danger to other trees so that they can start their own defense. So trees communicate with each other and warn them about the danger of insects that can harm them. That's cool, huh? Here's another fun fact for you. Some of you might already know this one. Pine cones have genders. Yes, they do. Male pine cones shed pollen, and female pine cones make seeds. So when the wind blows the pollen into the female cones, you guessed it, the seeds become pollinated. How cool. All right, here's another one for you. The knock on wood tradition. You know how some superstitious folks say, hope something comes true, well, knock on wood, like it's good luck. This actually came from way back in the day when primitive pagans used to tap or knock on trees to summon the protective spirits that they thought resided in the tree. Wow. Is that interesting? Who knew that was where that superstitious phrase came from? And how about this fact? A tree can absorb as much as 48 pounds of carbon dioxide each year. And it can sequester 1 ton of carbon dioxide by the time it reaches 40 years old. Wow, that's a lot. So it's estimated that United States forests absorb about 10% of the country's CO2 emissions each year. So that's another very important reason that we do everything we can to take care of our living trees and try not to cut them unless we absolutely have to. And also that we're always taking every opportunity to plant more trees, to plant new trees to grow, because we need them to help clean the air. It's very important. And now here's another one that I bet you some of you woodsy folks out there already know, but let's just share it again. Trees can help you find your way if you get lost in the woods. In the northern temperate climates, moss will grow on the northern side of the tree trunk where there's more shade. And also, a tree's rings can help point you in the right direction too. If you're in the northern hemisphere, you can see the rings of the tree grow slightly thicker on the southern side since it receives more sunlight. In the southern hemisphere, the opposite is true, with the rings being thicker on the northern side. How about this one? Pine trees, we know a lot about those around here. Maybe not as some states, but we have a lot of pine trees, don't we? Lots of different kinds too. Well, pine trees grow on 6 of the 7 continents. Wow. Antarctica is the only continent that does not have pine trees. Is that cool? And our trees also can lower the air temperature by evaporating water in their leaves. Let's see here. Oh, here's one. I didn't know this one either. This says that if a birdhouse is hung on a tree branch, it does not move up the tree as the tree grows. That's pretty interesting. I'm gonna have to take a close look at the birdhouse that we have hanging on our tree out in our yard. And Miss Mika wants to share that John Wayne says that except for ash trees, the moss is going to grow on all sides of the ash trees. Okay. So I'm interested in that birdhouse fact, though. I'm going to have to check that out. I've never noticed that. I wonder why that would be. Okay. I've got 2 more little fun facts here for you, okay? This one makes perfect sense, but maybe you haven't thought about it in a while. Trees also improve the water quality by slowing and filtering rainwater and protecting our aquifers and our watersheds. So that's really important. And we've talked about that. If you've been in any of mine or Miss Mika's classes, I'm sure we've talked a lot about that. That's another reason why we don't ever want to clear cut. The clear cut is when you cut down a whole lot of trees in one area at one time and take them out. Because clear cutting can lead to lots of soil erosion that is bad for the environment around it. So those trees, when it rains, they soak up that rainwater through their roots, don't they? And I'm sure everybody can think of some time or another that there's been a rock slide or a mudslide after we've had a big clear cut somewhere, because those trees are no longer there to keep that erosion from happening. And then when we get a big rain, it just washes all down, and that can be bad for the environment in lots of ways. Okay, I've got one last little fun fact to share with you. And this was something that it makes sense, but was something that I didn't really think about very much. So the different parts of a tree grow at different times of the year. So especially like a place like here, you know, some places don't have all 4 seasons like we do, but we have all 4 very different seasons. And some years, you know, the seasons can vary a lot. They can be a lot different in temperature and precipitation. So typically most of the foliage growth happens in the spring. Well, that makes sense. We know that. That's obvious, right? That they get their new leaves, and if they have blooms to bloom, they bloom. That happens in the spring and the summer, right? But then their biggest trunk growth will happen throughout the summer. I didn't know that. Did you? And their root growth, their roots grow more in the fall and the winter. That's pretty interesting, huh? I didn't know that. So I learned some new things today, some new fun facts about trees. And if you're interested or have any questions about any of that stuff, I'm happy to learn along with you. Feel free to reach out. And if we don't have the answers, we can get them together. And there's also lots of other online resources if you want to, you know, check out the old list for the old tree database. That's something that I think I might like to do in the future. Or just Googling different fun facts about trees and see if you can learn something new, and send us back any info. Maybe you can teach me something about trees too. I always love learning new things about trees. Okay, I hope you all had fun watching. I hope everybody learned one new little thing about trees, or at least had a fun thought about some of these cool facts that we've talked about today. And I want you all to have an awesome weekend, okay? And Miss Mika will be back on to see you all Monday. And I'll come and talk to you again next week, okay? Bye-bye. Thanks for listening.